you were saying that religious states will fail eventually. And then you were also saying that the model of the state will likely be rejected by people. And so what do you think it will be replaced with if we don't have, like the United States, we have,
What is the solution?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, because the United States, we, at least in theory, have a separation of church and state. And so that's been, our way of dealing with that. We're not a religious.
Brought up in this country, I was taught everything here. And although it's true I rejected various aspects of what I've been taught, but I'm undoubtedly affected by the whole idea of, the United States. I mean, my father was a great Democrat with a small d, a believer in democracy. He was also a Democrat with a large D, for that matter, belonging to the Democratic Party, more or less. But he had a very deep belief in the Constitution and the rule of law. He was an attorney, and he worked often in the issue of separation of church and state. That was actually one of the major accomplishments in his life, where he was a very high-ranking Scottish Rite Freemason. The state of Washington was the highest-ranking member of that group in the state, and worked at the national level on the separation of church and state and so on. So, I mean, I certainly have imbibed the ideas to some extent that if the ideals were really upheld, then that would be okay. But the trouble is the ideals are subverted. And in the corporate world that we have here today, what is the corporate world except a Stalinist dictatorship? I mean, inside of a corporation, the owner or the CEO is the one who rules everything. Temple University is at least a university. So we have, unlike the real corporate world outside the university world, we have the principle that there should be faculty governance. So we have the faculty senate, and in fact, I'm a faculty senator at Temple University. And all that is the provost, who's appointed by the university president, who's appointed by the trustees, comes and tells the faculty what's what. And the faculty have no power. I mean, we can consult, we can suggest, and so on, but we have no power. It's like the rule of Louis XVI or something. I mean, it's a dictatorship. And then America comes along and say, oh, democracy, blah, 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 blah. Well, and so the actual system is one thing, and the ideal is another, I think. The ideal is good in some ways. Like some things, if we say, for example, that let's resolve our arguments through elections of representatives instead of war. Well, who could argue with that? I mean, is war ever good? And especially with the weapons of destruction that now exist. And part of the frustration of the militarists of today is that they cannot understand how they have everything and they don't control it. And how they have all this power, and yet the most miserable little pipsqueaks, because explosives have become far more destructive than they once were, can create these bombs based on no organization even that can do mass destruction. So just look at Timothy McVeigh and the blowing up of the federal building in Oklahoma City. I mean, how many people were tracked down for that explosion and persecuted for it? Was it a big organization? No, it was him. Even the one or two guys that were put in prison, it's not really clear that they knew anything about that. And so the idea that one person can go and do something like that is just too much. And then also because of technology being so fragile, everything can be disrupted so much more easily too. And that becomes another threat, which probably leads them to want to be more authoritarian and so on. And that just makes a vicious circle that ends in its own overthrow. So the modern state is kind of an idol itself. And certainly it is better to see, like, the discourse about religion is, like, I teach a capstone course called Theories of Religion and Secularism. And one of the things is the modern state has appropriated the gradual development of the term religion over the centuries to utilize in a way against all resistance to it. And so they've created dichotomies such as science good, religion bad. Secularism good, religion bad. And we are secularists, you are religious. Or we are objective, you are informed by superstitions and myths. And all of that type of thing to dump on anyone who tries to resist or oppose the system. So then they appropriate all sweetness and light to themselves and their own justifications, and this is what is called the deep state, which is a term, derin devlet, that was developed in Turkey in the 1990s to refer to the Turkish state. It was then appropriated and used in the Egyptian Revolution in 2011 to refer to the Egyptian deep state, and now it has been appropriated recently, as of our last election, to refer to the state in the United States as the deep state. And furthermore, it's been, I think, quite well exposed by recent events here that have shown that this is the case. So anyway, you have then the use of the term of religion as a way for delegitimating the other. So the framework of acceptable views is that religious views are not welcome in the public square. And so if anyone comes and says, well, according to my ethics, you're doing such and such is wrong, they'll just say, oh, well, that's just because you're religious. So that doesn't count for anything. And an illustration of this is Richard Dawkins, the icy atheist biologist of Britain, who was completely flustered and angered by Mary Midgley, his nemesis, the philosophy professor at Newcastle on Tyne, who ridiculed him for preaching while he was trying to say, you know, I'm an atheist, I'm a scientist, I'm just upholding science, we are upholding knowledge, you are religious. And he would do that against anyone of the religions he was attacking who tried to defend themselves. But Mary Midgley, unfortunately for him, is an agnostic. And she has no religion, no religious commitments, no religious practice whatsoever, and hoots at him with books like Science as Salvation, Evolution as a Religion, holding his preaching up to ridicule. And he couldn't stand that because he couldn't get her, because he couldn't accuse her of being religious and of being religious. Well, it seems a little bit disingenuous for these people to be arguing that religious views are illegitimate when their own views, in fact, are religious. And their religion is the religion of the state. And it's statism, state worship, worship of the deep state, nationalism. And that is a religion just as surely as any other religion is a religion. It even has its own rituals, its own salvationist doctrines. As I pointed out to my students in a slide that I have in another PowerPoint, which unfortunately I can't show you, but is titled Nationalism, Religion, and Racism, that if you try an experiment, you take out a Holy Bible and put it in the public square somewhere and stomp on it with your boots as hard as possible and see what reaction you get. Then you take an American flag and put that out in the public square and stomp on that with your boots as hard as possible. Obviously, you get a much harsher reaction for the stomping on the American flag than you do if someone tramples the Bible or the cross. And owing to that, one can say, there you can see where people's sacred things really are by that experiment. So from that, you can see that I would rather say, and I do teach, everyone has a religion. The only choices are either you have a religion or you're confused. If people are confused, then they can indeed be said not to have a religion. But if they have some underlying principles for governing their life, they have a religion. And what is the source of those principles? It has to be something that ultimately is not scientific, because you cannot reinvent the wheel with every thought that you have. You have to believe in things on faith, and that's what people do.